Welcome, warriors. This is day 2 of 5 days of Defiance. And today we're going to be looking at what I'm calling the warrior's call. Those of you tracking energetically up, we're coming up into solar plexus, into effective action, into direct discernment, discipline, accountability, systems. So please do use each of these sessions each day to return to your own personal practice as well, whatever that is for you. Taking a moment now to ground in. And as we did yesterday, I want you to cast your awareness and attention into the space that you're in and feel this authorship, feel this way you can imbue and assign or project the meaning of your dojo, your church, your temple, your therapy hall, whatever it is, whatever you feel gives you that permission to step into your fullness, into your personal practice. Use this room as that today. Grounding in, feeling once again time slowing down into the present, feeling the detachment and surrender to what was, catching up to now, your new opportunity to do again, to redefine, to reinvent, to recreate. And also a gentle surrender going forward, where whatever you're going to do can be put in the future for now, because you're here right now. And this will be productive in what you are going to go and do today and this week, this year, this life. So feeling the softness as well, building on from what we did yesterday, feeling our nervous system drinking up by redistributing the well. If you imagine there's a dam, it'll be the irony of a desert outside a dam. And often our bodies are like that. We've got this walled off area of tension, of energy, of blood, of swelling, of mental charge. And so it becomes very stiff and solid and restricted in one area. And yet the other areas hunger to be watered by that potential. So if you've got a lot of brain activity, a lot of tension in your face, imagine what it's like if you can just release the down wall through your throat, the back of your head, the atlas vertebra, actually, that's the final one before it plugs into the skull, and just let your mind lead the energy. Where attention goes, energy flows. So even if we're not all Qigong masters that can move Qi at will, let the imagination start to educate us and open up these channels. So just feeling the softening, like you're taking a jar or a bottle, putting it upside down, it's now plugged in, and undoing the throat, just softening, just gently stroking and allowing any of that energy to drain down now and fill your body, breathing into the heart without any tension in your shoulders. And also kind of drinking, feeling almost like a friction, as they call it, Ujjayi breath. Bit of a Darth Vader sound. And on the exhale, it's like you're steaming up a mirror. Letting that soothe the nerves coming down. And feeling the different ways the breath can unpack us. It can come down towards our belly. It can also expand out into our heart and opening our lungs. It can also come up into our wings, into our shoulder blades, into our back. Oh, yeah. And just feeling as your breath starts to expand, what parts of you want to be stretched? And just feeling a slow undulation of all your centers. Feeling that brain center. You might even want to take your hands and just place the thumbs under the descending parts of the skull, left and right. Feeling into your heart center as well. Maybe taking your arms open here together, opening out. Always looking for habits, looking for circuits, looking for restriction, looking for safety automaticities, and just trying to soften it into the fluidity and the play and the surrender of the way your body wants to move, and let pleasure and wellness in life start to guide your movements. That for me feels like it's starting to hurt my shoulder. So find flow, find another way. Always active and centered around your core. So moving the belly and the hips, rolling the hips, and being interested in the way, are there any habits in the way you move your hips? Have you done plenty of embodiment workshops and you go, oh, this is my successful one that gives me like a bit of a Kundalini awakening, and I shiver and I make sounds and everyone thinks, wow, they're so deep in process. All of these things insulate us from the actual moment. Bringing your energy down to your legs as well, brushing down towards the feet. And taking time with your feet to really do a bit of intuitive reflexology, pressing in to any tender parts in the sole of the foot, leading in intuitively to the different organs. You don't have to know the map of the foot, but just feel what wants to be softened. What do you want to be present with? Changing over to the other foot when time feels right. Now finally coming into a seated or kneeling position that feels focused. And what I want us to do today, so this is day 2 of 5. For those of you just tuning in, this is a free offering that I'm putting out on my social media called 5 Days of Defiance. And the intention is to pass on a few of the practical techniques and approaches and perspectives that I use on a daily basis or regularly to orient myself, to live a life that I feel is spurred by my own intention, to not be thrown off guard by all of the many different travesties and injustices, and whether it be natural, political, medical, personal, community-based, whatever it is, financial. Feeling like all of these things are actually extraneous to the nucleus of you. And without expectation, we become grateful for what is, because it's all a gift. And we actually finally receive the potency, the abundance, the perspective of potential, the innocence to say what is, the bravery to take action on your integrity. Because when we're playing safe, often there's compromise. We can't always be inspired by and responsive to the natural invitation of life. And that puts a kink in the hose, a bend in the funnel, a block in the channel of that truly integrous, open, whole expression. Maybe sticking up for someone in a group when there's some sexist or racist remark. Maybe taking this natural inclination to catch a child when they're falling, but think, oh no, the parent will do that. Or all of these impositions of your natural just oof into life. Naming the obvious. Or daring to back your own heart, your own skill set, and ask for something, whether it be more money at work or more love in your relationship or more freedom and space in your friends group or whatever it is, that would actually back what you deserve so that you can be your best, so that you can be at peace in your life, so that you can not have such a tension on the injustices and the things that are wrong and the continual compromise and then shrinking your awareness because you're not looking at what you can actually see. And that is the singular path, I believe, of the warrior, is to face what is, to not avoid our knowing, to not need to know everything, because that's a big part of the mystery, walking into the void, going to the frontier, is to not have a handle to hold, to not know where it leads. We can't see the full ritual or rites of passage, the initiation from the starting point. We know enough that we know there's somewhere to go. There's a call to adventure. But I believe the huge distinction between being able to pre-plan everything and having just a gut instinct of go, and then allowing each moment to be a navigation rather than pre-plotting the entire path. Instead, having such pillars of integrity, such daily practices, such pre-realized, I'm not talking about a predefined judgment or prejudice, but a pre-realized acquaintance of self that, you know, cool, if someone is going to come in and do this, I know that my true response is this. This is the essence of my resonance, my song into the world. And not trying to find a place for our song. That also is a compromise. And that is also a distrust of the multifaceted disco ball of the party of humanity. There's so many facets, there's so many angles. And maybe your particular life up until now, maybe your particular identity, your job, your circle of friends, whatever it is, require a certain song. And what a travesty to only sing that. It's like a bird which is kind of like kinking its neck to the side and doing a little thing because everyone else around it's turkeys. It wants to sound like a turkey, but actually, if it just opens up, something completely, maybe it's a dove, maybe something else would come out completely. And maybe, well, the turkeys would just not hang around as much because they want the wobble, wobble, gobble. But maybe all the doves would take a while to hear it, but eventually start to congregate. And imagine that feeling of being a dove. You know how they just like coat a sidewalk or a top of a building and just being amongst that, just that harmony of the personal physiology expanding out into friends around one with a similar resonance. And it's not just about being similar, because that also is homogeny, that is also gentrification, but there is something nice in the amplification of one's signature in kin or kindred souls and communication in templates. But also with that song, when it goes into the wind, when it finds its coupling, when there is the socket to plug into, even if it's completely different, there's an effortless power. And this is the difference between force and effort and power and flow. There is so much capacity to move things like a conductor in life. I'm not sure if you've got areas in your life where it's easy to move a room, to have everyone give you money, or to have people feel your heart, or to everyone be inspired and get up and do exercise with you, or for people to sit still in awe and listen. Like whatever the thing that seems to shift the room, I believe that is the dance with the universe. And it's going, yep, that's the coupling. It's like a plug in a socket. It's like, that works. And now the electricity can flow. So taking this moment to feel, lead with sense, not with mind. Maybe breath, sound, and movement could help you guide yourself. But it is the softening of the resistance and the should-bes to face what is. That is the singular task. To know what you know, even when surrounded by what you don't. What you know might not have its socket to plug into right now. That's okay. That's part of the mystery of what's to come. But what do you know, even if it makes sense to no one else? That is the inner Eden, the inner sanctuary, the place of peace. Because the winds will howl from the outside of the windows. They will bang on the doors. They will shake the ceiling, but they can't get you. They can convince you to take action against your integrity, but they don't have a rein or a yoke or a muzzle on you. Sometimes they can get you to invest in something outside of you. Like they can get to the car and they can dent that thing up. And if you're so invested in your possessions or your identity or your particular connection or relationship, that can be in danger. And then when that car, that relationship, that role, that responsibility, that identity starts to get shaken, you feel shaken, and therefore we don't have stability. But if you let go of all the extraneous things, the wind can't get you. And that wind could be words, it could be media threats, it could be whatever whatever outside that's not directly impacting you right now, that is all part of the illusion. And this is a key thing that being a theater director, I'm very aware of, is the illusion of the show. And there are great storytellers that understand the susceptibility of humanity to be taken on a Dreamtime story, to feel into the invisible, the esoteric, the spiritual, the collective, pain and pleasure. And it's being used because it's a measure of control. And good on them. They worked out how the video game controller of life works. You make people want something, feel they need it, and then you make sure you're the only one that can provide it. Simple. You make something seem really scary, and then you provide the solution. You make something else seem really bad and have them ask for you to do an action that you originally wanted to do before, but wouldn't have been cheered on if you hadn't framed with a story that other thing that you want to take action against. Like, I'm sure I'm speaking to the converter with many of us. We know how these mechanisms work, but it's the things we don't catch. It's the scripts that we don't notice that have impact. There might be external things which are very obvious to you. Cool, like put them aside. That's not what we're working on. We're working on the subtleties, the little things that are still tricking you. And you know it's there because there's some compromise, there's some violation of integrity, there's some shrinking away from life, there's some muting, there's some lack of vivaciousness, there's some way that things are not flowing, there's some idea you're sticking to which is making you still do something which is not fully empowered, not fully true, not fully at ease. You're still trying to find your socket rather than just singing your dove song, waving that electrical cord. The socket will come if there is, and the world is like this musical instrument, like a harp that is tuning string to string, but the first string needs to resonate before the second string can feel the resonation to then shift and attune to. In the beginning, there was the word. Play with the resonance of this instrument of the body. What is it like when you make it shake? What's it like when you tap? What's it like when you shimmy? And what is life like when you shimmy, shake, or tap a connection, a relationship, when you ask the uncomfortable question, when you put a bit of pressure on something you dare not touch because you don't want to break it? Allow it to attune. Some things will break away, other things will come back together. Life is so free. We are so free. There is so much permission. There's so much liberty. As long as it doesn't come with an expectation from us. I just want to be able to dance as long as they like me. I will only dance if this particular song plays. I will only love you if you love me in this kind of way. Well, then you're playing God to some degree. You're trying to control the external and ironically taking the freedom away from the external to have your own freedom. It's like, I want to be free. So for me to be free, you can't be free because I need you to do this so that I feel safe enough to be free. That's not how a planet of 7+ billion people can live in harmony. So it's you being free. That is the task, and trusting everything else to recalibrate around you and being grateful for what you receive, and also grateful that what you lose is moving away from you to make space for something else. Also, the other particle is not violating its integrity. Maybe someone doesn't want you to sing every morning, so they move away, and awesome for them because that's their freedom to not have to be at the behest or being imposed by your freedom of expression. Awesome. And I'm so glad that those people that leave or those things that we lose find their other place, because I don't want to be the tyrannical leader of something that is not part of my garden. Hoping this is landing. Today I'm going live through Zoom, and I'm just going to come and check here to make sure it's all landing. For people, if you've got any comments, please put them underneath the post. And for those of you in the group as well, I will be getting this recording and putting it on YouTube, and then feeding it back into the 5 Days of Defiance Facebook group as well, so you can watch the replay. So in this moment, I want to now do a bit of a practical exercise. If you've got a pen and paper handy, you could just do it in your mind. You could have marbles on the floor, whatever it is. But I want us to map out a bit of an ecosystem of our life in this moment. I want us to look, and this is the warrior element, is what is our intention? What are we avoiding? What are we obsessing over? Those are the two things, the phobia and the philia. Phobia is retreating from, detaching from, going away from, and philia is a love going towards something, sometimes in an addictive capacity or an obsession, mesmerized distraction. And then when we can balance those things out, we can be present, and it's a lot more effortless to flow our energy, our participation, our contribution towards our particular intended area of endeavor. So with your tools now at the ready, I'd love you to imagine that you are the center of your own solar system. You are the authorship portion. You are the source point for your subjective universe. So just imagine yourself seated there at the center. Coming back to a slow, full breath. And at the same time as being the source point, your own inner sun, I want you to feel the beautiful lineage of suns as well, whatever they are, the supergiants and then the subgiants and the yellow dwarfs, red dwarfs, the whole lineage of other people. Could be genetically your ancestors, or just thematically, archetypically, the people that you're inspired by, that you want to continue the bloodline of. And I just want you to feel, even though you are the sole sun in your universe, in your solar system at least, that knowing there are other suns out there somewhere in the galaxy far away, burning their beautiful beams, imbuing their gifts, that is an inspiration. It's a note of permission. Feeling into the beauty of the brave men or women, the chiefs, the knights, the healers, the witches, the activists, whatever it is, whatever lineage, the sirens, the Volva, the samurai, whoever you cast your mind back to, whether it be through the mind or just through the body, into a lineage, you go, thank God they are on earth serving this role in society. What a majestic role to play. I want you to feel that nobility coming through in you in this moment, in your own flavor, not trying to mimic them, but just having the true resonance of that which is already in you. And it might not have a place in the modern day. You know, being a knight in the modern day takes some other kind of flavor, like a soldier or something, but that's not quite what it was. Or maybe there's some other way of being your warrior or your healer, your scribe, your monk, your priestess, whatever it is, you know, because there's a beauty, there's a truth, there's an innate yes. So have that as your point of reverence. And this is really key when I'm working in areas I don't know, or if I'm in the void, I'm in the unknown, I'm in the chaos of everything, that all the outside story is shaking and people are not being reliable, and maybe the money is going and maybe possessions are floating away and all of that sort of thing. I believe that anything that is pivotal and core to us cannot be taken from us. And as we come back to our point of reverence, everything else quietens. Because I do believe that you will always have a connection to engage with that thing you have most reverence for. Is it helping people? Is it healing children? Is it celebrating nature? Is it being an artistic muse for someone else, or are you creator and you're going to dance with colors? Like, what is the thing that is your mana, your life soul food? And I believe that there will be, in all contexts, an ability to have a conversational connection with that thing. And that is how we feel stable too, is maybe I'm a painter and I lose my canvases and paints, but maybe painter was just one embodiment of the true purpose, which was to celebrate the sky, which was to understand the bending of light. And maybe I can do that through colored sand. Maybe I can do that through the blood rising to my skin. Maybe I can do that simply by witnessing today rather than having to paint. It's understanding the seed of the purpose of that lineage. And coming back to that point of reverence as your North Star and knowing yourself what that is without having to have confirmation from the outside. So what is your North Star? What is your point of reverence? That thing which will get you out of bed in the morning, the thing which anything else can fall away from and you would still feel like you've got a mainline vein drip straight into source. And let your heart come to the ease of knowing that you know. Let yourself know that you know, because you do. So here we are as the sun, honoring the lineage that we stand for, aligning to our point of reverence, being the central sun of all these moving particles, of the component parts, of the details of this particular life story we're playing out. And I just want you, with a soft mind, feel yourself coming back almost in your body, not physically like leaning back, but imagine your energy center actually coming back towards your spine, feeling your belly softening, feeling your heart open to be receptive to the sensation of you observing your own little solar system. And just take a moment with a nice, deep, full-bodied breath, the slowing of time, softening of awareness into a sensorial intuitiveness, and observe what rotates around you. What planets have a gravitational pull? What themes, problems, or dreams take your attention? Is there a particular person, particular job, a problem, a body melody, a hopeful holiday destination? What do you continually channel your energy units of attention to? And so just sit here. We're just going to sit here breathing for about 2 minutes and just imagining as you, as the soul center of your solar system, just witnessing your life pass by and circulate and orbit around you. And notice which planets, which person, place, or purpose has the most gravitational pull of your attention. Finding even deeper ways to feel. So as you're breathing, what's the next rung of surrender? What's the next level of sensation? What's the next clarity of knowing that can come without the mind trying to solve it, but continue to let your own life in? Because these things are already in orbit in some part of your awareness. They're already holding some of your energy. So in a moment when you really feel you've got one of the key planets, one of the key things which really take a lot of your energy and your attention, I want you to have it just sit in front of you. Imagine like an eclipse where there's a planet that lines up with the sun in some way. And I want you to be with it. I want you to take it in. I want you to notice what it brings up in you. It could be inspiring or intimidating. But what does that subject matter in life bring about in you on a physical level? How does your body respond? And how can you shift and move and soften and be with? Because it's okay. This is one of the key things about the path of the warrior for me is I'm amazed at the ability of the body, our physiology, to be with everything. You can be hot, you can be cold, you can be in pleasure, you can be in pain, you can be fast, you can be slow, you can be awake, you can be asleep. Like we just keep persisting. There's very few scenarios where You just have to drop the body and leave and die. And yet our mind, in trying to preserve us, brings our boundaries really so much closer than need be to keep us safe. And so we're actually cutting ourselves off from exposure to so many sources of life, inspiration, learning, of a life well lived in many cases. So how can you surrender to fully just being with this topic which is on your mind? Breathing. And now we're going to swap places with it because it represents something which is probably in you already. You might like it or not like it. It might be so great that it's intimidating or so terrible that it's really hard to confront. But I want you to imagine literally like with these 2 points, here's me, here's the other thing. Imagine this. It becomes the sun and a bit like a holographic overlay. You swap around and you locate yourself in the problem or the inspiration, in the dream, in the goal, whatever it is. You're now in it. A bit of an acting exercise. What is it like to be that thing? To feel like you are now the holder of that resonance. You're the one that does the good thing with the bad thing. You are it. But really allow that acting to become an experience. It's not a performance, it's an actuality. It's a willingness to be sincere in something that maybe is not you. And we've got the ability as creators to do that. So feel that you're being it. It might be a person, or it might be like a tree, or it might be Hawaii. Like it might be a little bit of a lateral thinking exercise or creative task to be something that's not human, if it's not human, or something like a problem. But just identify as it, be it. And when you're landed in it, I want you to notice what parts of your bodies would need to change or open up or shift to be able to hold that resonance that it holds, because it's holding a lot of gravity. You've nominated as having a lot of attention capacity to draw you in. Why is it so charismatic to you? What lesson is there for you? And now if you shift to be able to create it, I think you'll be less obsessed and addicted to it. You can do it at will. You can look at it. You can deal with it. You can solve it at will. But you're not going to have the phobia, philia, automatic, ultimately triggered response. So you're sitting in it. What do you have to become, be willing to be, or do in order to have that effect on the world? To be that charismatic point for someone else, whether you be an inspiration or a problem, how would you have to be? How would you have to express? How would you move through the world? What part is it inviting for you to face about yourself? Maybe do some expressions, maybe sounding as it, maybe moving as it, maybe thinking as it, whatever it is, just something to kind of wear the costume for a moment. And then when you feel you've got the transmission, you've drunk the Kool-Aid of that particular thing, now is a really important point, is how to now detach. Sometimes we get traumatized and linked into an experience. Maybe the house burns down, or maybe someone leaves us. And then we kind of get locked into that moment of time where we can't detach, even if the next day or the next week or the next year, the house is not burning down anymore. Or maybe we've even found ourselves in a new relationship, but we're still kind of hung up on that previous point. So how can we detach? And there's lots of different approaches. But for me, one is quite physiological, and it's getting the distinction point between the physical and the energetic. What's it like to come into your core and feel, and a breath can lead us there, a gentle detachment and expansion. It's almost like an evaporation. There's a beautiful word, sublimation, which is kind of to shift into a higher resonance or different form. So what's it like to sublimate, to evaporate, to change the particular attachment to this problem or genius that you've now identified as, and let it go? And there we all find what we are not. All the things we can let go of, well, we weren't that. I'm not that. I'm not that. You can't let go of yourself. This is the one thing that I hold is true. And it's really beautiful that I can never lose myself. No matter how much I let go, I am here, persisting. Not even just always and forever, because that's time-based, but timeless, beyond space and time. And it's a beautiful proof, if you choose to align with that theory, that you always will be, because if you are, then you always are, because if you're not in time, then time's not going to change you being. So if you are now, you just are. And therefore, you can let go of anything. And at the same time, in letting go, it's a lot easier to receive as well, because you'll put on the costume without thinking now it's stitched to your skin. So once again, we're going to release this identity or this being, this problem, this vision, whatever it is that you've, like a spirit, like ghost in the machine, you've gone into, evaporating out and swapping back now, back to being you, back to locating yourself as the central sun in your solar system. Maybe allowing a sigh out on the exhale. Maybe just gently stroking down your skin, particularly around your centers, energy centers of the brain, energy center of the heart, energy center of the stomach, the sacral, your womb space, energy center of your root, your perineum. Shaking it out, maybe tapping the feet on the ground, clapping the hands. Remember yesterday I was talking about the 6-pointed star, the points being the hands, the feet, the top and the tail. And once again, reorient to your point of reverence. This is the point to keep coming back to. What is the lineage you serve? What is the role you choose to play? What is the resonance you hold? We're going to do that 2 more times, but a lot quicker because you know the process now. So once again, you are the central sun, allowing all the items of fascination in your life to orbit around you. And when a particular person, purpose, problem, place, or pickle, anything else that begins with P, comes into your awareness and takes a lot of attention, whether it be phobia or philia, attraction or repelling, just be with it. Soften your body to be present with it. Swap places with it. Become it. Feel what it's like to hold that resonance and to have that effect on the world. Notice how your default would have to change and shift in the way that you are to be able to have that effect on the world. So now you can be the source of it. It doesn't have to have such power in your life. Beautiful. And once you've clocked that, once you've got the transmission, detach, shift, and come back to being yourself. Thank you. And it goes on its way. And one last one. Just breathing. No rush. Let's allow a few orbits to happen until you settle on the last planet. Once you've got it, go through the process yourself, trading places with it, getting the resonance, and then trading back to yourself. And then just to wrap that exercise up, coming back to be the central sun, breathing in, softening, feeling as well the slowness of time. I've intentionally spoken quite slowly today. I want us just to be with what is. Sometimes it might be an edge or a threshold of discomfort. Feeling the emptiness beyond the activated, direct agency of doingness. Because sometimes the best solution to a problem is not to do anything, not to pick at the scab, not to engage in the argument, not need to solve all of the spot fires which are being placed all around us, because that can be overwhelming and send us in 1,000 directions, and we can't go in 1,000 directions. So then we just come back and overwhelm and don't do anything, and then we start getting surrounded by the thing. We feel even worse because now we didn't do at least 1 or 2 of the fires we could have put out, and so we feel even harder on ourselves, and now we doubt to put out any fire, and there we are, burning in the field. So one of the key things that I've also chosen to adopt is leaving other people to their own misery. Allowing someone to create a really tragic story of their life if they choose to. but also not shying away from it, just being okay to share space with them, have a conversation, but not try to solve it for them. And that's where we can actually cohabit a planet with a bunch of people who are going through a lot of traumatic experiences. Otherwise, we're going to shrink away and we're going to detach. And so much empathy and feeling ends up blowing a circuit, and we actually can't be of use to anyone. So being able to be present with pain, tragedy, injustice, insanity, even cruelty, I believe, is key to true, practical, proactive empathy and engagement. So now I want to briefly talk about threshold release techniques, and then we're going to go into some basic systems planning to wrap up today. A bit of a chart or a life map to look at some of the ways that you want to bring in some discipline, some of the areas you want to tend to, and some direction you can move forward in whatever situation you are. We've obviously all found ourselves in very different situations through all of the changes, through the lockdowns, through the war, through the floods, through all the different things that are moving. I don't know where you are, but I'm grateful if you have the liberty of being able to tune into this video, live or the replay. And there will be something you can do about it. There will be something you can add to the world, contribute in alignment with your genius. That's not a compromise that you can be remunerated for. There will be a way you can live a life that connects you in with the things you love most. There will be a space that you can have which is peaceful. There is a way that this current convulsion of society, of planet, of geopolitics does not have to wreck your life. And those parts that may have shattered, let's reframe it that it wasn't a wreckage, it was a recalibration. It was a deep lesson on letting go. It was a harsh lesson in facing some of the darker forces, the heaviness, the injustice, the greed, the manipulation that is in our species. A lot of this we are doing to ourselves. And that's a lot to face. It's too much for many to face. And there can be this cognitive dissonance of like, yeah, cool. People would declare war on someone else and bomb innocent people, but they wouldn't trick or lie. They wouldn't do this other thing over here. Surely they're telling the truth here, even though they would do something extremely vile and abhorrent over here, but they would be decent over here. So that's the cognitive dissonance that sometimes I see and feel, is the inability or unwillingness to face where people are at, humans, the corrupt nature of humans, the way we don't always deal with power well, the way we deceive each other constantly, lying and altering facts for our own betterment. This is where we are. This is obviously just my interpretation, but I think there's a piece in that when you come to terms with the fact that there is a lot of criminality in people who are in prevalent positions of power and influence. And if that really lands for you deeper in this moment, beautiful. Because that's how we can be with what is. And we all of a sudden find our role in the game. Okay, oh, that's the game I'm playing. I thought I was playing a game where I just listen to you and follow and you give me everything. Oh wow, you're playing a game where I actually have to like detach from the illusion and drop into my own body's knowing and feeling into a dreaming and come to life and light through curiosity and dare. I have to actually dare and not know the outcome, because I can't just follow people that have gone before me, but I actually have to carve my own path, and I have to go through some loss, and I have to have things stripped away so I know what was not me. And then I can build and cultivate. It's like a training session. I get it. There's going to be even harder times to come. And there's going to be such a shift because so many people are disadvantaged by the current system that I can't have my little life raft because there's only 100 life rafts on a ship of 1,000. Whoa, there's so many people that don't have the life raft I have. I have to live in a world without life rafts, because that's the only way to equality. It's the only way to harmony. It's the only way we can live with nature. It's the only way everyone can have the resources we have. Is that we have to let go of just the form of our comfort and knowing. It's not like you have to give away your happiness, your safety, your relationships, or your money in the sense of wealth, which can be many things. But yeah, we can't persist with the old broken system predicated on extracting life force and work from slave labor and taking resources from nature and not dealing responsibly with our waste and having occlusion of information and not allowing people to educate themselves and it doesn't continue. We do not keep going like this. But trust me, it's beautiful. All of the shells we are shedding expose our skin to the actuality of the harmony of nature, which is so abundant and so full of pleasure. And coming back to simply breathing and feeling and moving, we allow the architecture of our calling, our gift, to start to shift our body and then shift our relationships, then shift our society, change our relationships, change our business. There is that dream seed of the utopia that I know we all talk about. We want to be in harmony with nature. We want to be in harmony with each other. We want to have ease. We want to have artistry. We want time and space to play, but also we want time and chance to contribute and be worthwhile and have a belonging in a community. If we all want this so badly, why do we make it so hard for ourselves? Because the platform we're standing on doesn't go down that river. So it needs to break away. And thank you for the external forces which allow us to come back to our core. This is where threshold release techniques come in. Threshold release techniques are basically an approach to going across from one state to another. Often I call it the yin path to yang because it's often through a softening that we can traverse the membrane of distinction. It's like if you go into a shower, on a really simple one, and have the cold water splash onto the back of your head and run down your back, and not brace against it, but allow it to be understood as being a transition of signal from temperature to nerve activation. They're two different things. The water is not going into your body, but the sensation does, because it goes from being a temperature signal on the surface of your skin into a nervous response, which then, shifts your body in some way. And if you can drink it as a sensation, it's actually a life force. It's livingness. It's aliveness that goes into your body through the cold. Thank you. You just recharged a battery in some way. You invigorated, you turned on, you sharpened, you came present. Same thing with hunger, another threshold release technique. Once again, it's the sublimation, it's the evaporation. Can you bring awareness to your stomach? Maybe place your hands there now and just imagine you're hungry. I'm not sure if you are or not. This one takes a bit longer. Obviously, a cold shower, you can literally turn on and off. It's very quick. Hunger, you have to kind of wait for. But if you choose to fast, I do fast and I do flushes, which I really find a nice way to reset that second brain I was talking about yesterday about the digestive tract and the stomach. Can you get the sensation of softening and expanding energetically the stomach? And that one practice alone is a threshold release technique, which can literally switch off hunger for me in a second, literally a second. Maybe I've fasted for a day or two. Usually in the first 24 to 36 hours is the hardest. And there's a moment where there's almost like this acidic bubbling, burning, like an extra drawing down through my esophagus and alimentary canal of like food, want. And that want is only a signal. This is the thing. The hunger is not a physical thing that has to be acted upon or responded to. It's an invitation to eat. And I think sometimes we forget that these signals are just communication and information. And so my stomach isn't saying it's hungry. It's saying there's a particular chemical shift, which I'm interpreting as hunger. But often I think it's just acid. So if you have an alkaline drink, maybe it's like bicarb soda water or some other green drink, and that comes in there can be this dissipation of the hunger because it's actually just a shift of the signal. And that also can be done energetically simply by breathing, softening, and just having this energetic, let your imagination lead, release the stomach. Oh, I'm not hungry anymore. Amazing. Also, as some of you might know, I've got scars, I've got tattoos, I've got piercings, I've got brandings. Part of that initiation, which many tribal rituals go through, is the idea of once again being with pain and having the mental autonomy over the body, obviously also imbuing it with a particular significance of the symbology of what you're doing, but the pain too is just a signal. And of course, so it is a very useful signal because you don't want to put your hand on a stove and just leave it there because it will cook and it'll just be bacon. But instead, we don't want to be always at the behest. We don't want to have pain as the rider on the back of us as a donkey, just whipping us and we just do whatever it says. Can you sit through a piercing and know intentionally I'm not harming my body, it's for earrings? Or can you be branded or cut in some kind of way for a ritual and come into this really beautiful alignment with your body, where your body becomes a partner in this game of life? And it's the same process. You feel the pain, you soften and let it be water through your system. Come with intention. Why are you doing this process, this ritual? Have it really based in something that's loving, that's going to expand and nourish you. It's all about wellness. And it's also the initiation of knowing how to be with that, so that when the true test comes, this is all training, because the true test comes and you might have to lift something heavy. You might have to pull something else out that has pierced you. You might have to hold on even though something's hot, because it's really important you don't let that thing go, because someone could die or the child might fall or whatever it may be. So it's the autonomy, the agency, the decision that I want to put myself in the saddle of. So I encourage you to explore these thresholds. Could be simply as pinching yourself. Can you pinch and then just soften? Can you have a cold shower and soften? Can you be hungry and fast and soften? And same with sexual pleasure as well. Sometimes that, it's the opposite of pain. I mean, it depends how you play, but if you're going through something that's pleasurable, can you soften to that too? And as a man, often there's this idea of, ejaculating too early. And how can we have that buildup of sensation, but once again, soften? And that's the thing. We think of masculine, we think of erection, we think of porn, we think of being impactful, slam, boom, look at me penetrating. For me, the power doesn't come from that clenching. The power comes from allowing the rest of my entire body to flow into the phallus and be engorged, to be full of life, and allowing the flow through a softness, the yin part to yang. The yin path to yang, the yin path to yang, to breathe, to soften, to allow, to open. It's the music of life. It wants to play, it wants to harmonize, it wants to connect. So that is the invitation. Threshold release techniques. Find areas of resistance. It even could be an uncomfortable conversation. How can you soften across that threshold into the conversation and have the experience? And so often, it's the pain of avoidance that is worse than the experience itself. The coldness of the shower is not as bad as the embracing. The pain of the piercing is not really as bad as the fear of needles. The discomfort of an awkward conversation is not nearly as painful as not saying that thing needs to be spoken. And quite the opposite, actually. There's sometimes so much life in the cold shower and so much relief and love in communicating that thing. Release across the thresholds. Beautiful. How are we doing? You all with me? Are you having hydration? Big shout out to celery as an entity. Amazing medicine. All right, so we're in the last few minutes for today. We're going to do one last exercise, a bit of a mapping exercise. Thank you for those of you who have been here. I'm just checking now. I'm seeing there's a comment saying I'm still interested in the movie idea. Cool. I believe you're talking about the Vicarious movie. I won't be going into that today, but I'm glad that that's on your mind. And yeah, that's a whole other project, Vicarious game, where I'm a human avatar in the game of life. And also want to be co-creating the ultimate movie of all time with you, by you co-authoring a movie with me. But that's a project for another time, but I'm really glad. Andrea, thank you. Working, but listening and loving every minute. Wonderful. Thanks for being here. Thanks so much. And thanks for those of you who did your little emojis. I'm witnessing your names here, knowing that you're with me. Really appreciate it. And if you found this useful, please do share it in some way or tag. I really want to give this as a gift that reaches people. If it's useful, obviously, don't want to give gifts that are not. It's like, oh, thanks, another pair of socks. Good. But hopefully this is a tool that can be used in this time. And you too, I just want to without knowing exactly who I'm talking to, obviously, a lot of different people will hear this, but I believe there is definitely a distinct gift that you have, an effortless, generous gesture you can pour into the collective that at this time will be medicine for someone. And that's why I just like being a beacon and just sending a signal out into the sky and just trusting someone will pick it up if they need to hear it. And I hope you do the same. I hope this time of pressure and tragedy has not shrunken you, has not stopped you communicating, has not had you given up, has not had you compromise, has not had you fall into some kind of mesmerized illusion. That is not your truth. And I really hope you give, you grow, and you give, you expand, you connect, you allow, because life wants to happen. And what a gift to be a human as an instrument that can allow it to come through us. So finally, with that being said, and you do what you do with you, I'd like to briefly look at charting something. So once again, if you've got pad and pen, it could help, or marbles on carpet, stones and sand, whatever it is, or trace clouds through the minds of your imagination. You are on a course, a self-assigned ritual, an initiation to grow into a greater, truer version of yourself. Now, this path is rippling out from a center. And I just want us to set some very clear goals. And I look at everything as an organism, as a system of exchange. There's a metabolism at the center of each area of life. That area could be your body, it could be your relationship, could be your work, it could be your engagement with humanity, nature, whatever it is, the spiritual world. But at the core of each of those is a metabolism. What does that mean? It means different component parts come together and affect each other and change each other, and something comes out the other end. It's like a factory. Maybe rubber and petrol and, hopefully we're not in it's extremely destructive factory, but anyway, you know what I mean? There's resources that go into the factory. They've got a production line. They mix them, they pour them in a pot, they boil them, they wrap them up, they put shoelaces on it, and they, out the other end comes a shoe. Amazing. Something changed because of you. Your resonance, your filter, your signature. And that's how we harmonize. So if you were to think into your body, let's have a few real quick input outputs. Starting with the output, because you want to know what the result is, what is the key thing you want to come out of your body? By which I mean, do you want people to get loving touch? Are you a masseuse? Do you want to harmonize? Do you want people to watch you dance, be inspired? Do you want to make a child? Do you want to simply press up against the earth and be immersed in the biome that you're a part of? Do you want to be a land worker? Do you want to be a water protector? Do you want to be a lover? Do you want to heal people through sex? Do you want to put your body on the line and protect? So feel that intention that is prime in the area of your body. Once again, aligning to your point of reverence, these things can all be coherent. We don't have to compromise in one part of our life in order to get another. We don't have to lie in our job to get the money so that we can actually pay for the family. I don't believe that's how it works. It's all congruent when aligned in the harmony and approach. It's all about how we show up. It's not about controlling the outcome. It's about holding your note true. This is absolutely pivotal for a warrior. Hold your integrity. We don't know what will come. We can't predict and control. We don't want to be the tyrannical leader of everyone else. So let them choose what happens when you do you. But you do you. And so knowing what it is that your body wants to affect, now come into the body on a somatic level and feel what metabolism, what change would allow you to XYZ, to dance. I need to strengthen my core. I need to tap my feet more, or to be a masseuse. Well, I need to touch things more and learn through my hands. I need to offer massage. I need to overcome this fear that I'm going to infect people and be sickness, or I'm a man. If I touch people, I'm scary and it's kind of like predatory, so I can't massage anyone. What is it that has to happen internally in order for you to actually give your gift? So just feel with that. And then coming back to the input in that factory of change, What do you need to receive in order to have that metabolic process, in order to then give your gift on a physical level? Is it that you need to receive touch? Is it that you need to actually be away from people altogether? Is it that you need to eat better food? Is it that you actually want to be initiated by someone else that has that signature so that you learn how to do it yourself? What is it that you need to draw in? So this is a very simple diagram I want you to draw. Center is you on an embodied level. What is the output aligned with your core intention of your point of reverence? And then what is the metabolic process that happens in your body, the change, the learning, the process that would enable you to put that out? And then what do you need to receive from the world? What are you calling in? And ask for it. We need to ask for these things through intention and sometimes through words and action. So what are you going to receive to enable that metabolic process, that catalyst of change, to then show up and do that thing from your body level? Really simple. If I was drawing this, I'd probably do like a central circle of that area of the body. I'd do a line going up, another circle with the output. Then I'd do something in the middle of the circle of the change. I'd do a line coming down, being the input, another circle, and that thing I'm going to receive. But draw it however makes sense to you. Awesome. Now we're going to go beyond the body. I'm going to feel into a core relationship. Let's think of a romantic relationship. What is the key gift or change contribution you want to make to that lover? If they were a cake, what is the ingredient you add? How do you shift? What is the gift? Once again, and this might take some lateral thinking or creative exercise, how does it align to your point of reverence? How does it relate to the gift of your body? You're starting to feel the signature that flows through it all. How you serve the ultimate lineage through all areas of your life. And then once you think of that contribution, how internally would you change? I'm not just talking about physically now, I'm also talking internally in the relationship of communication, how you acknowledge them, the time you take to spend quality time, the expectations you have of how they show up to you in the relationship. How can you circuit break the habits which have not been allowing you to be your best lover self that you ultimately want to be? And just be with that. It might be uncomfortable, it might be inspiring, it might be scary of how you will be in your relationship to fully show up and deliver the contribution that is in alignment with your highest version of yourself as a lover. And then finally, coming back to the input, what would you receiving be a catalyst for that change to then feed into that offering? What do you want to get? Is it a particular thing you can ask for from them? Or is it having space from them? Or do you actually crave to have enough money, to have enough resourcefulness to then be able to gift them something? Like, is it another area of your life that you need to work on? And we can expand out to that in a second. So what is the thing you're calling in regarding the relationship to have that change in the relationship, to then gift to the relationship? We'll do 2 more of these. Now, feeling into your calling, your vocation, this role you play, whether paid or otherwise, that you're going to play in community, in society. What is that heart bleeding, blooming curiosity, passion, devotion that you want to give? If you knew there was 1 billion people lining up to say, yes, please, I'll have 2 of whatever you wanted to put out into the world, what would that thing be? Once again, in alignment with your point of reverence, not about the ego, not about how you hope I want them to think of me as a really good poet, or I want them to think of me as a humanitarian. Like, that is ego driven. It's more coming from in. It's like drawing, it's a calling. It's something that is like a magnetic North Star. It's something that you live for, even if no one noticed, and yet you had confidence that would be caught or would actually have an effect on the world. What do you want to do in society? Even if they don't have a name for it now, even if there's no job paying you to do it right now, you know you're here to serve that lineage, and you know it's a note that's needed in the orchestra. Cool. And so once you've really clocked and faced, a bit like that solar system exercise, you've been with the possibility of you really playing that, come into yourself and what would need to metabolize or change or shift It could be a single shift that changes everything, or it could be a daily practice or habit that needs to be maintained to continue to show up as that. What is the metabolism of that change? And this doesn't have to be solved by the mind right now. It can just be, it's a knowing. You know on many levels. So for now, even just feeling some kind of unknown shift that would bring you into that beingness. And then finally, once again, what do you want to receive? What do you need to receive? What are you calling in? What shift in your life would enable you to metabolize, to finally show up and play your actual role? And you can go on if you want one more round into more of an esoteric nature about your role in the collective dreaming of being a species on Earth, which we all are. And that's a very real thing. Whatever that means for you, could simply be being a good person, or could be actually, doing energy work on the energy grid of the planet. Could be converting someone to a religion if that's really what you think is freedom. What is your calling? It could just be having a really beautiful connection with source, and you continue to liberate yourself from this human aspect, so you finally have peace and full unequivocal unconditional love. Or maybe it's just finally coming to terms with the fact you're human and going the path of descension to land with feet on the ground and be appreciative that you have the small window of life. Whatever that is for you, that bigger picture. Just feeling into the actuality, then coming into the metabolism. Wow, that is what it would be to be the person that has that output into that bigger sphere. And is there anything you need now in the input? How can you draw that in? Is it simply breathing in prana, energy with life? Is it bringing in through observation, just looking at life? Is it a form of prayer? Is it a journey that takes you to a sacred land? What is the input? Breathing in now for all of these things. Nice full body breath. Holding for a moment, feeling the fullness and the expansion beyond the breath, the evaporation beyond the body, no tension. And then in your own time, sighing out with some sound if you like. Shaking the shoulders, shaking the hips, brushing down the legs to the feet, massaging the soles of the feet, rubbing the hands, massaging the face, getting any tension in the back of the neck, undulating the spine, forward, back, left, right, rubbing your belly, undulating your hips, tapping your perineum, breathing into your nose, whatever little buzzy wobble little likes you want to do. 3 breaths through the mouth and land. Respect for showing up for you. Thank you if you have chosen to nominate me as being a meaning, a significance, a role in your play. What a beautiful, beautiful collection of resources we have when we think of these things, these innate gifts, these points of reverence, these passions, these brave surrenders into some kind of metabolism and output. I really, really, truly hope that your note is becoming ever clearer amongst the cacophony of all the other distractions externally. And I really, really hope you're getting used to not having a handle to hold on beyond yourself, that you can be in the unknown and yet absolutely know what you know. Thank you for your unique signature in this world. Thank you for the bravery. And if you are like that dove, kinked its net and pretending to be a turkey, trust me, there's loads of doves that want to sing with you. And there are loads of sockets that want you to plug into. So flail your electric cable into the darkness of the night and trust that eventually there will be an alignment that will allow you to ignite, that will allow you to take bite of that thing that you are ravenous for, to finally be satiated and for it to take you away, whether it be in or exhalated. We are an inspiration. We are taking it in. It is in the cookie tin on the top shelf. And so we need to levitate, but not through gain, not through taking the cake, but just allowing all of the artificial structures to crumble so the top shelf comes back into alignment with our eyes till we don't even have to try. So easy, so effortless. The power is there without force. The yin path to yang. Enjoy crossing the threshold.